Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show.
That was so incredibly dramatic.
Today on the show, we are going to talk about stuff we've been watching, stuff we've been reading, and for all you horror files out there, it is 249 days until Halloween.
Yes.
Just wanted you to know that.
Let the countdown begin.
I counted it today. It's on the Jack.
I love that.
I have a countdown clock that is Jack Skellington, and it tells me the day is to Halloween.
I love that.
I looked it up. I updated it. We're on the count. We've decided there's a count now. I also wanted to let Kathy know that the first behind-the-scenes look of Art the Clown and Terrifier 3 have been released.
I would just like to say one thing to that.
Yes, ma'am.
One of our Discord folks, one of our patrons, and our buddy who did our music, Ice, bought me one of the original new prints of that.
Amazing.
And I
like
am,
a poster or something?
Yes, and it's the first, it was like the first release of the poster. It was a really special gift. I'm redoing my office. It's going to be all horror themed.
Great.
And I'm getting a beautiful gothic frame for this poster. It is the artwork for this one. I'm so stoked for this movie.
I'm so happy for you. And for those of you who don't know, we're in the planning stages of doing some video as far as our recording is concerned. And one of the things that will be required, of course, is that Kathy is in her layer and I am in my layer, and
Yes.
we will record online and record the show, and we'll both be on video and be able to interact with y'all and do all of that. Anyway, that's in the planning stages. So what I immediately thought of, like, what your studio behind you on camera, what it's going to look like. And it's probably going to have
It's gonna be
Art
cool.
the Clown, right?
Art the Clown,
there.
and then I got a vintage Scream poster.
Nice.
That's really, so those will, and if you are not into Etsy, get into it, because there's some beautiful small businesses that make these really amazing gothic frames.
So good.
Ooh, so I'll make sure to take pictures and post all that. We're moving right now, so we're painting all of that, and I'm stoked. My partner's like, we're gonna do this right.
The first start is always delightful.
Yeah.
Anytime you move, you might as well make it nice, because moving's a pain in the ass.
It is, and especially when you own a place, you're going to be there for a while. So, but to be continued. I will send some photos as we are building.
Put on the old
If
Insta.
you build it, horror will come.
I also wanted to let you know, because I know you've been really chomping at the bit, that Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2
Come on, leave them innocent.
introduced similar posters, but twisted versions of Piglet, Owl, and Tigger.
I don't like it. And I'll tell you what, if anybody fucks up Snoopy for me, I'm coming after you.
They will eventually.
Oh, kill him.
Although I don't know if the family, gives the rights to
Schultz?
that kind of thing.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't think they would.
No, I've met his son a bunch of times at writing conferences, and he does not seem like the kind of dude that would allow that to happen. If he still has the rights to those things, it just doesn't seem like the kind of dude.
I think they do, actually.
So that's probably good. This
Thank
is why
God.
you keep the rights to things.
Thank God for that. Not all my childhood can be ruined like that. Just leave some of it. The furry's already ruined, just the comfy little, like, not that I'm, do you have your fetish? I'm not judging that, but like, why? Why make something? It's
You're offended. I get it. I want to shout out a bunch of our patrons, because I just want to let you know that Bayhart, Ingrid, Aaron, Rachel, somebody who goes by Whiskey Lab, Catherine, Billy, Delilah, Chris, Jessica, Isabel, Steve, Snake, Zach, Ice, Mackenzie, Mandy, Marie, Pepper. I just want to shout out, those are some of our patrons, and we really just genuinely couldn't do it without you.
Oh, we're so thankful for you.
And if you ever want to reach out with show suggestions or just have a chat, you always know you can chat with us through Patreon or in our Discord if you happen to be members of Discord. You don't, as a patron, you don't have to join Discord. It's just a way to interface with us and watch movies and join the book club. But on Patreon, that's obviously a delightful way to get a hold of us if you have questions or ideas or suggestions for the show or just really anything. We very much appreciate our community, and we hope it just continues to grow with like-minded individuals. And we're just really grateful, and I wanted to shout people out today.
Yeah, thank you for doing that, because we have fun with so many of you. Even the ones who don't engage directly, we're very thankful for you. When you do engage, it's a bonus for us because we get to know who you are. And the book club's a lot more fun when we have people jump in. And
you bet.
We've had some new folks join the book club, and we all read different things. And you and I have talked about how some of these books we never would have read because we all come in with different. So that's really cool.
It is really cool.
Yeah, even the movies we choose on Discord, and people choose nights to choose the movie. Like, we get to see things that otherwise I may never have watched.
Yeah, some of our patrons have stepped up along the way to host movie nights, and we'll get together and watch whatever they choose. Kathy has a movie night. I have a movie night. We have a movie night where we vote on things. You get to suggest and then vote. That's how we do our book club too. So it's a lot of fun, and I just wanted to make sure to give a little bit of love. I also think that probably leads us right into talking about one of our recent book reads. We had a book club read called Maggie's Grave that we actually never spoke about on the show, on the regular show. We spoke about it with our book club, of course, but
that was my pick.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, okay.
No, I just say that just give an example of, we all kind of throw in and then people vote on it. Right.
Yep.
So I was, it always feels fun, and, hoping people will like it if they choose yours.
Of course. However, we have all put forth stinkers.
Yeah. And what's great is,
and it doesn't matter. It's fun to hate read as well.
Yeah, and I never choose books I've read, so like I'm going into it like everybody else going, sounds great. I'm going to talk about a book today that was gifted to me that sounded amazing. That was like, this is not what happened.
This is not amazing.
Yeah, so
so Maggie's Grave is by David Sodergren, and I have seen this on actually a lot of people's, in hindsight, I've seen this on a lot of TikTokers or stories on Instagram where people will put this book. It's kind of an indie book. They'll put this book on their list of like disturbing books, which I find really interesting because our book club is a horror book club, although we do read thrillers from time to time as well. I didn't find this book that disturbing because we read some really disturbing stuff.
No, this was fun, I thought.
But this is on some people. For some people, this would be like gory and scary and otherworldly, and there's a fight to the death and all those things. So I get it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's a small Scottish town of Achenmullen. They are dead. Basically, it's very slow and sleepy there. Everyone has left, and it has been for years, and it sits in the shadows of a mountain, forgotten, atrophying. Like there's this perpetual gloom over all the characters in the beginning, and 47 residents are all that remain in this town. And there's nothing to do there, nothing to see, except for a solitary grave near the top of a mountain. And Maggie Wall is buried there, and she is a witch. And I think her grave says Mary Wall buried here as a witch. It's basically what her epitaph says. But sometimes the dead don't stay buried, as we know. So especially when they have unfinished business, that's how folklore works, right? And so this is a relentless, I agree with that, especially once it gets going, a relentless folk horror nightmare from the author of The Forgotten Island. Maggie's Grave will disturb and shock in equal measure is kind of what the promos say. But this is horror, it's witches, it's paranormal, it's dark. I mean, it'll be a good Halloween read, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was fun. It's an easy read.
Very easy. Read really fast, you guys. Like I would look up and I'm 25% through or something. I'm like, okay.
And I know, Shannon, you could say the same. We read a lot of books. And so sometimes it's nice to be able to get through one that didn't take 6 months to get. And I'm actually a really fast reader, but if I'm not into the book, I'll drag my feet on it. And so sometimes it's nice to have one that's like, as you call, a palate cleanser, and it's just fun.
Absolutely. So,
There's some good horror in it too.
Yeah, there is. And Kathy doesn't normally like folk horror like in her movies, but this book was folk horror and she chose it, and then we vote, that active members vote, and we all chose it. So
yeah, it worked.
I think it's a pretty good recommendation if you like slashers, gore, witches.
I think that's it. Is it had enough slasher in it?
Yeah,
that kept me. Yeah.
Yeah, but it had that like overarching folk horror of the witches and stuff. So that was really cool. And it had a cool monster in it. I'll just say that. The monster, the baddie,
agreed,
was pretty cool. So I think it's a pretty solid recommendation. Quick read, short book.
Yeah.
So. I think you read some other books too.
I did. There's two I'll be talking about in the episode today. I'll start with one. The first one is the one that I was gifted because we had read her in book club before, a book by Catriona Ward, and we the one that we read was Needless Street, and that was a great book, and I think we all loved that. For the most part, most of us liked that in the book club, and the description of this book, which I'll talk about in a moment, I can totally understand why it was gifted to me. And I also had it on my Goodreads list that I wanted to read because the description of it is like, wow, this is right up my alley.
Yeah, I think it was on your wish list.
It was.
We had read another book by hers that we liked as well.
There were two, but that I remember Needless Street the most. So Little Eve, it's called Little Eve, and it's the winner of a Shirley Jackson Award. The book was called The Last House on Needless Street. That was the previous one. This one's called Little Eve. So I'll read the description here. A great day is upon us. He is coming. The world will be washed away. On the wind-battered isle of Altnahara of the wildest coast, off the wildest coast of Scotland, a clan prepares to bring about the end of the world and its imminent rebirth. The adder is coming, and one of their number will inherit its powers. They all want the honor, but young Eve is willing to do anything for the distinction. A reckoning beyond Eve's imagination begins when Chief Inspector Black arrives to investigate a brutal murder, and their sacred ceremony goes terribly wrong, and soon all the secrets of Altnahara will be uncovered. It is a book about a cult. You know, it's interesting because there's such mixed reviews, but overall it gets like 4 out of 5 stars, which I think is pretty high.
It is.
So there must be something about it that is just not, I'm either not getting or it just doesn't connect with me. And when I went on to Goodreads, a lot of people had said the same thing. They're like, I now know that this genre is not for me because it's actually beautifully written. And Ward,
she's a good writer.
Ward writes really well. So I want to be clear, like if you like this style, it will probably be a very good book to you. It was terribly slow. There was no horror at all. It was depressing. Every chapter was a different girl that was part of this man's cult talking, and there were like 3 major ones, Eve being one. Okay. It gets a little confusing at times of like who's who.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it goes in and out of different years. It'll go 1917 to 1931 to back to 1921.
And then different people. And
oh my God. And then by the time it gets about halfway through, which usually that's when there's a dead spot, the Chief Inspector Black starts to be another narrator, and he at least like picks things up because he's not speaking in this like really formal cult language. I was like, please God, let this be over soon. I had to like force, and I completed it, and it was so anticlimactic to me because they start to unwind it 3/4 of the way, and so you know essentially what's going to happen because they go future, but then they end in the past. So it's like I already knew,
right?
And then like the last couple of pages is then the present day.
Okay,
and so you get a little bit of that, and it's like, okay, that's a sweet ending, but that was not worth my pain.
Yeah.
It just didn't do it for me. It was so slow.
It sounds like it was really slow. And what I remember about, I also read Sundial, which is another one of her books. And those 2 books, what they have in common is that you have an unreliable narrator. Remember, that was the thing about Needless Street.
Yeah.
You know, and some of us it landed in that book, like it landed did. And so we were okay with the revisionistic, okay, like everything that went before it was fine because the ending landed. And Sundial was a little bit like that. It was a little bit less interesting than Needless Street, but it did have that unreliable narrator and that sort of twist. She does like a lot of twists in her books. At least those two she did.
Yeah.
And so,
and she does a little bit of that here, not too much, but I could have easily missed it because I was like glazing.
Well, and it
over.
sounds like the cult thing and the women in the cult, like that would be an unrolliable narrator
Well, and it
as
just
well.
was, to me, it was more depressing. Like there's a scene where this older white man he's basically pulled these young girls out of their, like how cults start, their situations when they're kids, right? And they're going to be the second coming. They're going to go into the sea and they're going to be, right? But there's a scene where one of the horses betrays one of the young girls, like rides too fast and like scares the girl. There's a very like visceral scene where he like beats the horse to death and makes her drink the blood. I'm like, this is not fun for me.
No,
like,
that would not be fun.
You know, I'm like, this is just not horror to me. This is just pure fucking like, it's depressing.
Very.
So yeah,
That sounds very depressing. Yeah. So we both watched the movie Destroy All Neighbors. Did we watch that in the Discord?
You guys did. I had already seen it, and
okay.
I didn't make Discord that night. I watched it like a few days before y'all watched it in Discord, but you did.
Gotcha. So this is a 2024 movie, under 90 minutes. It's a comedy horror. Struggling progressive rock musician William Brown finds himself in a living nightmare when he accidentally kills Vlad, the neighbor from hell. Did you enjoy this movie?
I think if you can just lean into how chaotic, ridiculous, and wild it is, I thought, and Alex Winter, of course, is involved. He's the co-director, and we all know him from Bill and Ted and Lost Boys. There's some really good people on it, and I think the guy that played the neighbor, and if you appreciate, like, they used a lot of practical effects and prosthetics, that part is really fun. The story is wild. It's crazy. I watched it. I thought it was fun. I don't think I'd watch it again.
Yeah.
But it was like one of those where you go, this is so wild. Like my partner was just like, what the fuck is going on?
What are we watching?
This is, but I mean, we weren't hating it.
No.
But it was just like a kind of a one and done.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously not a perfect movie, but I think, wasn't it set in the 80s and it was like off the wall?
Or 90s maybe? I'm not sure.
Or maybe it just had that
I think it just had that
flavor of like being a teenager in the 80s type of thing. And it was like, it has you smiling.
Yeah.
Again, it was kind of forgettable for me. Like, I'm not even remembering that much, and I have notes on it. I don't even remember it that much.
The plot is weird. It's off the cuff, but
it seems like they're having a lot of fun.
They are.
Like the cast, it just seems like they're having a good time.
I love that he blasts EDM club music, the neighbor. And he kind of looks like, they do the makeup, he kind of looks like the leprechaun in the movie Leprechaun.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Maybe that's why you thought it was 80s. Vlad.
Yeah, I think I think because it had so much practical makeup in it and seemed to be low budget in that way, and kind of an homage to those kinds of things, because the Vlad neighbor is so heavy in prosthetics. And I didn't understand really why they did it. They kind of made him like bestial in a way.
Yeah.
But literally, Kathy's right. It looks just like a grown man, only with the leprechaun head from the Leprechaun.
They make him like really tiny.
From like the old Leprechaun
he's all
movies.
Like buff with his Popeye arms, but then he looks like he's a little person.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the visual effect, even the practical like gore effects and things like
fun.
that, those were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So if any of that sounds like your jam, you'd probably have a really good time watching that.
Let's see. I'll save my other book for a moment here. I want to talk about the new season of True Detective.
I have watched 4 out of the 6 episodes.
I'll tell you, folks, not only is it the most watched out of all the seasons, I highly, 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 highly recommend this series. Callie Reese, who plays opposite of Jodie Foster, she's actually a professional boxer turned actor. She's fucking phenomenal in this role. So it's in Ennis, Alaska. The men that operate a research station vanish. To solve the case, Chief Danvers and Navarro will have to confront the darkness themselves and dig into the haunted truths that lie buried under the eternal ice. So not only is this female-directed, female stars, which is very abnormal for the True Detective series, at least thus far, there's a supernatural element. They use a lot of their cast are 100% Native American folks, which I thought was so fucking cool. It's based in Alaska during the 30 Days of Night. It is everything you want. It's an isolation horror. Jodie Foster, she's everything you want her to be in this role. There's a lot of psychological elements, trauma elements, and then it's also really suspenseful, terrifying, and there's a sci-fi element to it. I dug it.
I'm not done, but as soon as I started it, it was like, I gotta watch as much as I can. So it captures you. And what I would say is for our audience who may think, well, True Detective, isn't that just like it's a murder and then you investigate it? And not that we don't all like crime drama. In this one, it just so happens that they've introduced the suggestion that there is science fiction going on. There's creepiness. There's creepy ways people act. They embrace the Native American culture in the sense that they talk about spirit animals. I think you're seeing spirit animals. They're communicating with the dead. They're seeing the dead. And then there's some dead people, and Jodie is investigating this crime, and so. I agree. It's really engaging. It's got a lot of creep factor into it. It's got just enough that you kind of understand where they're going with it and what they're trying to figure out. Like I said, I've watched 4 out of 6, and so I'm not to the point where I know what's actually happening. And so I can speak from that spot of I don't know what's happening. I'm just engaged.
Yeah, it's very engaging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course the acting is good, of course.
Yeah,
but what I think the True Detective series does really well and always has, whether they're women led or not, is that they do really good things with character building. So,
I was just about to say the development of these characters are so solid.
So all of these characters, they don't have to build this deep into what, Joe is doing and what Bob is doing and all that, but they do. Yeah. They build the interpersonal relationships really well, and they're all really flawed.
You're invested in them because they're so real people.
Yeah, and they're so flawed.
Yeah.
Like the egotistical guy gets catfished. They're all really balanced in the way they're presented, and I'm just really enjoying that.
Yeah, like Jodie Foster's cynicism and unlikability is then matched with like understanding her trauma, and then that builds. And they do this in 6 episodes.
Yep,
which is phenomenal.
Yeah,
anyway.
Really good. Agreed.
Yeah. I'll be curious to hear what you think when you're done.
I'll be finishing it this evening. I've literally binged the first 4 episodes in the last 24 hours. So
we had to wait the week to week like old school, which I like, but we'd be like, oh, it's Sunday. There's another one.
Yeah, they did that whole on HBO Max where they released one a week. That. But they're all out now, you guys, so you can go for it. I also watched a movie that is on Netflix called Society of the Snow. It is 2.5 hours long, but I didn't notice. I mean, I watched it in 2 chunks because to me that's definitely 2 sittings for a 2.5 hour movie. In 1972, the Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571, which had been chartered to fly the rugby team to Chile, crashed in the heart of the Andes. And this is a very famous story for... even anybody who grew up in the 80s and 90s was still hearing about the 1972 crash of this flight because crashes didn't happen very often. And so only 29 of its 45 passengers survived the actual accident. And then those survivors were trapped in one of the most hostile and inaccessible environments on the planet. And they had to resort to extreme measures to stay alive. But this is a original language Spanish film, and it is shot beautifully. It is emotional. It is heartfelt. You care about these guys. You see this struggle. And, I love the name because it's called Society in the Snow because they end up being brutalized by the snow and these conditions before some of them do get out alive. And that's why we even know the story of what they did is because people do survive. So it is a story of survival, but they really do build this little society in the snow with each other and you really get to know them. And I think it's 2.5 hours long because they actually spend time getting to know these these young men in their relationships, and there's sweet and soft and emotional moments inside the plane where they're trying to survive, and they're sing-alongs, they were a team. So they have a fund of knowledge about each other. And then it's death and destruction and fear and survival. And it's really good. If that sounds like the kind of afternoon or two-parter that you want to go down, I think this is a solid choice.
That sounds cool. I remember seeing the trailer for that. Mm-hmm. I watched on Netflix a British 8-part television series called Fool Me Once. Following the murder of her husband, Joe Burkett, Maya Stern was given a nanny cam by her friend, Ava Finn, to watch over her daughter, Lily. However, after watching the camera footage, she sees Joe, who was presumed dead, visiting their daughter. Meanwhile, Abby and Daniel, her niece and nephew, seek to find the truth about their mother, Claire Walker's murder and the possible connections between both cases. Man, what is it about British television? Every actor is so fucking solid.
They train them very well.
My God. So Michelle Keegan plays Maya Stern. Joanna Lumley plays Judith Burkett. Adil Akhtar, oh my God, who plays one of the detectives, Sami Kearse. This is a really good show. We put it on. We're like, let's give it a shot. It sounds kind of good. So Michelle Keegan's character, Maya Stern, is also ex-military. So she's like this badass and really knows how to like take charge. So she's not playing the docile, like, my husband died and I need someone to come save me. She's like, I'm going in, I'm going to save my daughter. And she starts to realize that her mother-in-law, who played by the fantastic Joanna Lumley, hasn't told her the whole story. And so things start to unfold over 8 episodes, and then there's twists and turns with her character as well. But if you want some like solid acting and just a fun, like keep you on your seat kind of thing with a lot of action, this is a good series.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds great. I'll mention another series that I watched then. I watched Griselda.
Oh, how is it?
It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's on my list.
So this is the chronicle of the life of Griselda Blanco, who created one of the most profitable cartels in history. A devoted mother, Blanco's lethal blend of charm and unsuspecting savagery helped her expertly navigate between family and business, leading her to become widely known as the Black Widow. If you liked Narcos, this is the same team that's brought you that series. So it's drug cartel, it's violent, it's psychopathic. She's totally a psychopath. This actress is Sofia Vergara.
I fucking love her so much.
She's amazing in this. And if you want to study in female psychopathy, it's right there. She's also a mom, but she's a ruthless leader of this cartel. I appreciated all the performances. There's several other actors and actresses that you'll recognize in this flick. It is a Spanish language series, so you've got subtitles and all of that, so just know that going, but it's very entertaining. You moved from, I would say the first 4 episodes of it, I think it's one of those 6-parters, were very engaging because you're watching her rise to the level of being this cartel leader and this killer and this very, very shrewd business person. And then the last 2 episodes are really about her downfall and how she started to slide into things that were not helping her and started to be really erratic. And then her ultimate capture, which of course we knew that's happened. That's not a spoiler. She's a real person she was captured.
True story.
So
I would like to see her in a different role, because I just enjoy her and I'd like to see her play a different character like that. So
she's really good.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I love her. So I'll switch gears here. This is more of a mental health nutrition piece, but we talk about mental health on the show. So I thought it would be a good one to talk about. So I have been an athlete most of my life. I'm not someone who has ever believed that, diets work and all the fad stuff and all that. So I'm always just, as a psychologist, naturally I do a lot of research and, I'll preface, always talk to your doctors before you do anything. But I've been following a woman by the name of Dr. Mindy Pelz, who does intermittent fasting specifically for women, because women's bodies are different than men's bodies. If we're looking at this from a binary place, this is such a wonderful, she has a lot of YouTube videos out, but this book is literally, it's called Fast Like a Girl. The foreword is by Leanne Rimes, who, when Leanne Rimes was younger and she was starting to tour, she had a very, very heavy cycles, and she had like her period started early, and the doctors were basically like, there's nothing we can do. And Pels was like, all right, well, that's untrue. We have to learn how to manipulate our hormones in a way that actually works. So people should not be ending their cycles at 45. Women should be having at least 2-day cycles into their, their early 50s. And what I love so much about Mindy's work is that she does so much for women's health, which is something that we don't get a lot of. A lot of the medical research that we get is based on men's health, and then we apply it to women, right? So like women shouldn't even be intermittent fasting like men do. There should be parts of the month that we're not doing that based on our cycles. And what it really does is it teaches us how to get all of the nutrients that we need in a window of time that helps lower insulin resistance and builds metabolism. Women's metabolism should not slow down because we have menopause. They should actually work just the same if we know how to put the right nutrients together. Times of the month to intermittent fast, which basically just means 18 hours of the day you don't eat. 8 or 9 of those you're sleeping, and then you eat in like an 8-hour time frame. You don't have to change your diet as far as you can be paleo, you can be vegan, you can be carnivore, you can be all of that. So it's really a great introduction to, she has recipes in there. And she says, are you among the many women who feel unheard and unseen by their doctors and health professionals? Have you become exhausted by the promise of quick fix diets that only leave you disappointed? In Fast Like a Girl, Dr. Minnie helps you to take back control of your health by using the quickest path back to better health in fasting. So it revs your metabolism, and it works, folks. It's really wonderful. It gives you energy. And if you want to know more about her, you can go online, and she has a lot of videos, but her book is fantastic. And I'll tell you, it's so effortless and will make you feel really good just to have this information. So if you're someone who's interested or frustrated with all the fads and all that out there, I would definitely recommend checking this out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're enjoying it for yourself?
Oh my gosh. So you go, yeah. And so I've been doing it now since December. I have more energy than I've ever had. My metabolism is on fire, and I haven't had to change anything. I never feel deprived. And there are periods of the month where I don't fast at all. And then there's periods of the month where I do, depending on where our hormones need it and where we don't. But it's never about deprivation. In fact, I eat more now than I did before, and my metabolism's even faster.
Great.
So it's about pairing certain things. And for people who feel really frustrated, this will be like, oh my gosh, I don't even feel like I'm doing anything different. And it's just like, you just feel, I had my brother try it, and within 3 weeks, he goes, I'm not even taking naps anymore. He goes, I just feel so awake. I feel so even if it's not a weight loss thing for you, some of us aren't trying to lose weight. You will feel like you can get up in the morning and start your day and clear-minded, all of that. So I recommend at least checking it out.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw a couple of movies that I really just were bad. So I want to share. We've led with all kinds of great shit. And now I would like to share some slop with you. I watched this movie, Suitable Flesh.
Oh my God.
That dropped to Shudder.
Is this the Heather Graham one?
Yes.
We had to stop it.
It's so bad.
It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
It's so bad.
Thank
2023.
you. I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Okay, so here's the thing. They did this thing where they're trying to be campy and creepy and 80s inspired, and Barbara Crampton's in it. Heather Graham's
it's an all-star cast
in it. Heather Graham has never acted so poorly in her life.
Yeah,
it's bad.
It's bad.
Like, if you didn't know she was a good actress or that she had been in good stuff or had been directed well, you would think, why am I watching this after school special?
It's so bad, and not in like an ironic, like it's supposed to be
That's
bad.
what I think they were trying to do, because all the press and all those stuff is like how it's campy and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no.
It's just bad.
It's just bad. So the basic premise is psychiatrist Elizabeth Derby. So that is one of the big problems with this. She is supposed to be a psychiatrist. And so for Kathy and I to try and watch this, you guys would think the dialogue and everything was bad as well. But I'm listening to her give her boyfriend like 101 lines about her job. And I'm like, what are we doing? She's saying stuff that isn't true. She's fucking her patients. She's doing things that are really like, what are you doing?
I love how we're portrayed in Hollywood.
She immediately crosses boundaries, like emotionally,
she can't help herself.
all this other shit.
Yeah.
That's why it's Lifetime special.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, it's the after school specials of the 80s, or it's like Lifetime egregious true crime representation. Like, what the fuck is happening? Barbara was fine in it because she's a good actress no matter what you put her in. But this movie is awful. So I didn't even get through the movie description.
I'm right there with you. I think we watched the first 20 minutes and then we were like, what the fuck what is this?
Yeah, if I hadn't been watching it with others, I probably would have stopped it. But I also started cleaning my living room while I was, like I made it profitable. So this is psychiatrist Elizabeth Derby becomes obsessed with helping a young patient suffering extreme personality disorder, but it leads her into a dark occult danger as she tries to escape a horrific fate. Now, listen, if that was written well, I got scenes I could put in this movie where you're dealing with someone with an extreme personality disorder that would be really fucking entertaining for you folks.
Oh my God.
I'm sure we both could write something. I'm not saying we could write movies. I'm just saying, like, if it was in any way realistic, it would have been very engaging. Because those kinds of scenes can be very engaging in movies.
Well, the trailer, when I watched it, I'm like, okay, this looks like it might be fun.
I know. No, you hear that and you're like, oh, Barbara Crampton, Heather Graham. Like, how fun is that? Yeah, really bad. All right. God. The end.
I'll talk about one more. It's more of just a quick review because many of you have seen it, but I finally got around to seeing it, which is Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. After a Black Friday riot ends in tragedy, a mysterious Thanksgiving-inspired killer terrorizes Plymouth, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the infamous holiday. Directed by Eli Roth, stars Patrick Dempsey, Ty Olsson, and Gina Gershon. So you've all watched my episode, or not, you all haven't. Many of you have probably listened to our episode on Eli Roth, and if you've been following the show for a while, you know that I'm not a fan so much. I have to say, though, and I said this on the episode, when he does his own shit, I loved this movie so much. Mm-hmm. It is so much fun. Mm-hmm. It is a fun ride. It is a real slasher. I loved the villain. I loved the humor. I loved the story. This was a fun one for me.
He absolutely knows how to follow a horror formula, right? Like when he does his thing,
yes,
he knows how to hit, even though it's derivative, all the things, right? Like all the things we said about Eli Roth, we know it's derivative. He follows the formula, blah, blah, blah. You're not getting, Jordan Peele-esque type, creativity out of it. But yeah, no, solid. Agreed.
It was so much fun. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a Thanksgiving watch next year. Like, I think it could make it into the rotation.
I think so too.
Well, and it's funny that we're doing this. We're wrapping up on a couple of holiday items. Mm-hmm. So you're doing Thanksgiving, I'll do Christmas.
Okay.
I watched a movie called Sick for Toys.
Ooh, that sounds creepy.
2018. What do you want for Christmas? Roy is a nice guy who finishes last. Sick of his current situation, he accepts an invitation to have Christmas dinner with the beautiful and strangely alluring Amelia. Once at dinner, Roy realizes that Amelia and her oddball brother Edward are not what they seem. This is not a good movie. However, the basic vibes, if you like this sort of thing, is this is a brother and sister sicko team that she brings home the guy on a date, and then she likes to treat them as toys. Meaning kidnaps, takes them, puts them in the basement, and then sexually assaults them.
Oh, wonderful.
On the regular. While treating them like toys, she will toy with them. And then so this new guy is coming into the picture, and basically like she's got one downstairs and she's got this new one. And then does he get out? Does he not? What's this weird bullshit between the brother and sister? Like, why are they so fucked up? It's one of those kind of movies. And it's not very good, but if
you're going to sit through something like that, it better be good.
Yeah. It's like a 2-star for me. Like, I'm never going to watch it again. I think I maybe gave it 1.5 or something. But I gave it that because it is pretty sick and twisted. And I like that part of it. And I like that it's sick and twisted at Christmas. You're hoping he survives and all the things and, you know, stuff like that. And so it gets a 1.5 from me, you know, 2 stars, something like that. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as a good horror movie.
That sounds a little miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that's our show. We ended on a wah, wah, wah. No, actually, Kathy said she loved Thanksgiving. So there's that. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of idea of what we've been reading and watching lately. If you guys have suggestions for us on what we should be reading and watching, please let us know, because we're always game to discover new things. So this has been an episode of Terror Talk Horror Edition. My name is Shannon.
And I'm Kathy. Sleep safe, everyone.